Okay, so first of all, I was struck by the question about what is nursing practice, because I thought, how am I now in a PhD program and I've never been asked this question? So I actually went to the Board of Nursing website and I looked at the Nurse Practice Act and the scope of practice. And I found the actual definition, which it says that professional nursing means the performance of an act that requires substantial specialized judgment and skill, the proper performance of which is based on knowledge and application of the principles of biological, physical, and social science, as acquired by a completed course in an approved school of professional nursing. And then there are some other bullet points that cover some of the actions that nurses do. But this took me back to our previous discussion about whether nursing is a science or an art. And now, looking back, I realize that nursing is the art of practicing a science. And I think that that's a good way for me to look at it, because you can't take either of them out. Whereas maybe in medicine, you can say it's strictly scientific because you're dealing with the disease. And then the question about science shaping practice also is related to what is nursing, because it said, nursing, you have to know biological and physical concepts. So as young nurses, we're taught that our practice should be evidence-based and based on real science. And in the Lichter article, they talk about how modern medicine uses the disease framework. And I spoke about this in my argument paper that, diabetes care is approached from a disease perspective, that we're treating high blood sugar, essentially. But from a nursing perspective, we know that we're actually treating a whole person, and that comes with a lot of its own baggage. So I like that Lichter also talked about chronic disease, because that's related to my research. And the health system's not really good at treating chronic disease because we never take the point of view of the patient. Even I, as a nurse practitioner who was treating a lot of chronic disease, heart failure, diabetes, hypertension, hyperlipidemia, atrial fibrillation, it actually wore me down because it was just constant care. But I never took the point of view of what it might have been like to live with that. For example, I think that science shapes practice in a way that may make us overly technical. For example, there's a lot of policies and procedures, but those policies and procedures don't take into account the patient's worldview. And it actually makes our health system into a disease system. I don't think I ever worked in a health system. And if it was health care, I don't know if we were really doing a good job of taking care of health. We were taking care of illness, actually. Fairman talks about us as nurses and historians. We are influenced by physicians in seeing illness as a disease and not as a whole person. But he or she challenges us to not see nurses and patients as subordinate players, but to be one of the main characters in taking care of illness, especially chronic illness, because it can be so difficult to take care of chronic illness. And then finally, the question about politics behind practice. I'm actually very interested in this because I don't personally want full practice authority as a nurse practitioner, but I do think about all the politics that play into getting that for nurse practitioners, and how some states have it and some states don't, and it heavily depends on the politics of those states. I did enjoy seeing Lichter's perspective that for centuries we've been holding people accountable for their own health. And now we're a little bit more well versed in like social determinants of health and why certain people are more likely to get certain diseases. But as a culture, we are obsessed with individual rights and responsibilities. We have, as Fairman said, we have extraordinary emphasis on individual rights and responsibilities. I heard somewhere, I don't remember if it was a podcast, but I think it was a New Yorker comic, and it said, there was a dead person, and the comic said, well, what did he die of? And the woman said, he died of rugged individualism. And that's so true. We often, we hold patients, even as a primary care provider myself, I held patients very, very, very accountable. Almost as if they lived in a vacuum where only what they did mattered and not the whole context of their life. And also in terms of politics, our health system is a for-profit system for the most part, with the exception of maybe the VA and public nonprofit hospitals. They're still trying to crunch out a profit. And so that really complicates the business of healthcare. And I felt that firsthand as a practitioner. There were a lot of politics in my practice, and that was something that I didn't know I would encounter as a registered nurse or as an advanced practice nurse. So I enjoyed reading Fairman and Lichter and Martin and Peterson because they gave me some things to think about, like how accountable am I holding my patients, and how much am I saying that it's just their actions that determine their outcomes, and how much am I considering the whole picture. So interested to see what y'all think. Have a good day.